I was born and raised in the church, and I left when I was 15. I was taken off my parents at a young age. I questioned, where was God in all of this? As I went out into the world and left home, and I got into the scene of BMXing. And as I was BMXing, I thought that my life was going to become this big famous life of riding a bike. Got some sponsorships and rode with some guys who were really good and did a lot of traveling, and got mixed up into drugs and alcohol and just started to live a reckless life. I had 3 major accidents actually. The first one was in 2007. I remember waking up in the hospital just thinking, oh no, my life's done. It took like 12 months again to be able to walk. Then I had my second accident in 2009 and I fell off the back of a car, and this time it really messed me up. And the doctor said, if you hit your head again, you're gonna die. As I recovered from that one miraculously, I started riding again a few years later, and then I had my third accident. And I'd come off my bike again, and this time when I hit the ground, I went into violent convulsions. They rushed me down to the POW hospital in Sydney, and I'd gained severe epilepsy on top of my third brain injury. And by this stage, I was having 2, 3, sometimes 4 fits every day. And this was incontinence and not breathing and just total knocked out on the ground, grand mals they call them. And there was just not much hope for me. And the doctors were telling me, you'll never work again, you'll never drive again, you'll never have a normal life again. So I just gave up. And after that, I just started to drink more. I started to get on really hard drugs, and I really started to get into some bad stuff. And the doctors told me, you need to stop living your life the way that you do, or otherwise you're going to die. But I didn't care. You can see that I have skulls all over me. My theory was that I was going to be buried in a coffin with no clothes and just a full suit of tattoos with death written all over me, because I was going to die. My dad was really worried about, he'd send pastors to me all the time. And I'd be like, oh, another pastor, here we go. This guy's going to tell me about a fairy tale, that's written in this little book. Until one day I met this one guy. And this guy was different. He'd led a life like me. He'd been in the world. And as I met this guy, he never mentioned God once. He just built a friendship with me. And then one day he said, I want to study the Bible with you. Automatically, I took that on as an opportunity to take another pastor down. And I went to that Bible study just off my face. We opened with prayer, and then he just reads from Genesis. So simple. And it was that in that moment of time, before I could even get a word out to have a go at this guy, that the Holy Spirit hit me in the face like a brick. It was like a brick. And I hang my head down in shame, just crying, knowing that there was a God out there that did love me. Even though that he knew everything that I did, he did love me. It was like I heard that, like that small voice that the Bible talks about, that still small voice. And God said, I know where you've been. I know what you've done. And I still love you. And I'll never forget that. I went home, and the next day I just woke up and I went, that's it, no more drugs. And I remember getting to the steps of the headland and just crying out and saying, God, if you're really there, then you need to change my life. It was not long after that I had another visit down at the POW hospital. Then I come out to see the doctor. I had the tests and the scans, and I come out to see the doctor. And then she comes into the room, and she looks different to what she normally does on this day. And she goes, your epilepsy, it's gone. It's gone. And I said, what do you mean it's gone? It's not possible. She goes, we can't explain how this has happened. This is just a miraculous recovery that you've had. And I said, I remember saying, I know how this has happened. I knew that God had answered that prayer and God had a calling for me. So upon that calling, I went home and I just stuck my head in the Bible. I wanted to get to know the person that had wrote this book, the person that knew everything about me. Then as my relationship with God grew, I wanted to serve him. But I wanted to give the one person that loved me, I wanted to share that with other people. To tell other people that their life doesn't have to be in chaos and turmoil. And I decided that I needed to work for him. My little girl who had been taken from me when she was only 3 months old, I was praying now that I could get her back. And I had to go through the court process and do all that stuff. And I sat down and there was people standing around the walls, it was that full. But there was a spare seat next to me. And then moving from that spare seat and going into the courtroom, same thing, people all decked out along the walls, but a spare seat next to me. And this happened 3 or 4 times as I went in and out of the courtroom this day on the hearing. And then I began to think, man, do I stink or something? Why is there a spare seat next to me all the time? And then that small voice again, that seat is for me. And it was like God's way of telling me that I'm here with you today. And I was awarded custody of my daughter 100%, and I took her home. And I'll never forget the day, and she was finally awarded to me. I wanted to give up my job, but I had a daughter to take care of, and I wanted to serve God. So back to the prayer table, and I'm praying again, how is this possible? And in the end, God was speaking to me and you have to fully surrender. You have to give everything to me. So I just rang up the guy and I said, I can't come to work anymore. I'm going to serve God. And I didn't know how we were going to survive, how we were going to get through. And through miracle after miracle after miracle, God provided for us all the time. The local church started to support me. And being a single dad and serving God, life was starting to come good. You know, it was starting to come back together. And then I knew that I had to do further study. I knew that I had to learn more. And I just had this hunger. And someone suggested, why don't you go to Arise? So Arise is like a discipleship program for anyone that doesn't know what that is. And you basically walk through from Genesis to Revelation and find out what the story of the Bible is all about. And I had no idea how I was going to do that. I didn't own a computer. I was very illiterate. I learnt to read through the Bible, like my brain was that fried. I couldn't use a computer. I didn't have the internet. I didn't have a printer. I didn't have any of that stuff. So I prayed again. And that year, someone who had never bought me a Christmas present before bought me one. And when I opened it up, it was a laptop. And then somebody else who had never bought me a Christmas present, I opened that up and it was a printer. And then the church comes to me and they say, we've decided in the business meeting that we're going to pay for your internet for 12 months while you do the course. So I do the course while I'm doing Bible studies out in the community, just volunteering. And God recognizes that there's something happening here. So my life still has challenges. I still go through stuff in life. Don't ever think when you come to God, all of that's going to go away. Because when you come to God, the enemy is out to attack you. And the Bible tells us, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, seeks about like a roaring lion to take you down, you know. And so I still face challenges in my life, and that's the thing about forgiveness with God. God forgives you for what you have done, but the consequences are still there. We make choices and our choices make us. But those tough moments are not like before where I couldn't deal with it and I had to just give up. Because I know now that I have Jesus. And when you've got Jesus, in your weakness, His power works best. So when you're going through those trials, He's always there. He's always there to pull you out. My name's Greg Fernance, and I'm currently the pastor here at Grafton SDA Church. I'm on a P3 pathway at the moment through the North New South Wales Conference, and just glad to be serving in my home community actually here at Grafton.